So there is a ton of controversy surrounding New York City's new voting law, which will allow roughly 800,000 non-citizens to vote in their local elections. And as with anything with a lot of controversy, there's a ton of misinformation circulating around this. And I've kind of chalked most of it up to people just kind of looking at headlines and going from there without actually like going deeper into the story. And also I'm going to be honest, who hasn't done that? Who has never in their life looked at a headline, they didn't actually read the story, and they got the wrong picture from just looking at the headline? It happens. I'm guilty of it. I try not to, but everybody has done this at some point in their life. Um, that's not what Ben Shapiro does here. And I think it's especially malicious. So we're going to play the clip and we're going to kind of talk about it along the way.
According to Breitbart, up to 1 million non-citizens living in New York City will have access to the ballot box after Mayor Eric Adams on Sunday approved legislation by the city council to automatically become law. So in other words, a bunch of people who are not actually bound by American law because they're illegal immigrants, because they are legal immigrants, a bunch of people who are not paying, for example, federal income tax unless they've stolen a social security number, those folks now get to vote in local elections in New York City.
So that's just a lie. Ben Shapiro that's not true. And when I first was watching this clip, I thought, he started it obviously by saying, according to Breitbart. I'm like, okay, I don't have the highest estimation of Breitbart. Breitbart probably just didn't go into the actual law, and Ben Shapiro's reading. Now you shouldn't, given the nature of what Ben Shapiro does, you should be doing due diligence with your sources and making sure that your sources are correct. But I was like, okay, he's got a bad source. That's not telling him the right information, because this law isn't about illegal immigrants voting. It's just not. But he's saying that here. And so I just assumed, okay, he just got a bad story. But then in this next part, that shows that that's not the case. And we'll keep going.
Adams said in a statement, "I believe New Yorkers should have a say in their government, which is why I have and will continue to support this important legislation." So I have a question. What's the limiting principle? Why wouldn't Democrats nationally think this applies? Why wouldn't they be attempting to get...
Just to be fair, this should nationally apply, but we'll save that for the end.
Maybe 15, 20 million illegal immigrants in the country currently to just have the vote. And why is that not some sort of corruption of the electoral process? You have millions and millions of Americans who are voting based on the fact that they pay income tax and are subject to all of the nation's laws. And then you have tens of millions of people who theoretically the Democrats would want to vote while they don't pay full federal income tax, for example.
He keeps bringing up federal income tax. That is not a requirement to vote in U.S. elections. Like, if you're a citizen, you do not have to have paid federal income tax to vote in elections. But he keeps bringing that up. I'm not sure why.
Eric Adams said, "While I initially had some concerns, I had a productive dialogue with my colleagues in government to put those concerns at ease. I believe allowing the legislation to be enacted is by far the best choice and look forward to bringing millions more into the democratic process." According to the left, the way that the democratic process works is that the democratic process is all about every single human, whether they ought to vote or not, being allowed to vote. More than a dozen communities across the United States already allow non-citizens to cast ballots in local elections, including 11 towns in Maryland and 2 in Vermont.
Okay, it's right here. This next part is where he is going to explain why what he's been saying prior to this is simply not true. And so
the measure enables non-citizens who have been lawful permanent residents of the city for at least 30 days, as well as those authorized to work in the U.S., including so-called dreamers, to help select the city's mayor, city council members, borough presidents, comptroller, and public advocate.
So, yeah, I mean, he says it right there. The law is about people who have, one, lived in the city lawfully for 30 days, which is also the requirement for just citizens. Like, if, for example, you're moving from New Jersey to New York State or New York City, you would have to vote, or I'm sorry, you would have to have lived there for 30 days to be eligible to vote. This 30-day standard, this is already the standard for citizens. It would just also be applying to non-citizens. But the law requires that you have to have at least a work permit. These are legal immigrants. These are not, this law has nothing to do, even if you lump in dreamers. Dreamers are here legally. I mean, that's what dreamers, they fall under, DACA. This law is about people that are here legally being allowed to vote in their local elections. It has nothing to do with undocumented immigrants. It has nothing to do with someone that just came across the border from Mexico and they just got here last week and now they're voting. That's not what this law has anything to do about. But previously in the video, I mean, we heard Ben Shapiro say this. He was referencing like the total number of undocumented immigrants in this country and assuming that like if this was done nationally, that this would apply to them. That's not what this law is. And that's why I feel like Ben Shapiro, because I don't think Ben Shapiro is unintelligent. I think he's wrong on a lot of stuff, but I don't think he's unintelligent. He can't be, to make some of the arguments that he does. I don't think he's unintelligent. I think he just holds, frankly, just different values than I do. And I think he has different priorities and what he would like to see in the world than I do. And because of that, I think that has led to him lying here or just not really caring about what he's reading. Because he read there that this law is about people who are lawfully here with work permits and people who have resided in the state lawfully for 30 days. Um, that's not an undocumented immigrant. That's just not, like, you're talking about a different group of people. But he feels the need to fearmonger about this law because he wants to spark controversy. He wants to, because that's the thing. He didn't just read the headline. He's looking at it. Like I said before, I thought it was just, okay, Breitbart left it out, which is, like I said, you should be using better sources than Breitbart. But if that's your plea, okay, that's one thing. But that's not what's happening here. He's reading it in real time, but he's not like amending his prior statement saying, "Oh, well, I was wrong about that." He's just running with it, and I think it's I don't know. I think it leads to, oftentimes you hear this claim, they're I'm not against immigration. I'm just against undocumented immigration. This is a common talking point. I think for some people, 100% true. I've talked to people where they said, I would support open borders. They're like, I just don't like people breaking the law. They're like, I am all for tons of immigration. There are people like that. But when you have your Donald Trumps, your Tucker Carlsons, I don't believe that is the situation these individuals are in. I think these people genuinely just want less immigration. It's not just about undocumented immigrants. And I think what you have Ben Shapiro doing right here when he talks about just fear mongering over something that applies to just immigrants, people with work permits. That's it's just, and let's talk about the law in and of itself. So yeah, if you are here lawfully and you are here for 30 days, the standard for citizens, you should be able to vote in local elections. These are the people that are going to govern you. With local elections are happening what, at most like a year every time. I think if you're there for 30 days, you should be able to play a part in electing the people that are going to govern over you. I don't think that's unfair, especially when a lot of the time these people are paying taxes. And whatever happened to the old no taxation without representation, are arguably one of the founding principles of this country, or at least one of the founding principles of the revolution. Now, there was more to the revolution than just that, but it's worth noting. If this is a principle that we hold dear, and I think we should, no taxation without representation, I think that's one of the strongest arguments for 16-year-olds and up being able to vote. I think the idea that if they are paying taxes, they should be able to vote. That's a different conversation. Regardless, though, I think that this is just sloppy and some would say malicious on the part of Ben Shapiro. But I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you disagree with anything I said, if you think I got anything wrong, please leave a comment down below. But if you did enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and have a great day.